Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On just about the half-hour away mark of Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, a massive trade going down in the NHL, as not all the details are out yet. Nothing is officially official yet, but all signs seem to be pointing to the Boston Bruins trading Linus Ullmark to the Ottawa Senators. So, already in the chat, is it official? What's going on? If we go over to the Twitter world right now, a main source coming out of Ottawa, working for the Ottawa Sun, correct? Is that who Bruce Garrioch works for? But Bruce Garrioch saying word out of Boston is that the Sens are closing in on a deal for Linus Ullmark. Steve Conroy hearing a deal for Ottawa for Ullmark is going down. We'll see on the return. So it's still going to take a little bit of time to see what the official return is, and who knows if we even get it before Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. I promise you, I will not be streaming into the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. So if the return is not there by time puck drop comes, or if it comes during the Stanley Cup Final Game 7, I won't be going live again. But if it comes over the next little bit, we'll definitely have it. As the Boston Bruins, it was rumored for a long enough time that with Jeremy Swayman taking the crease, with the money that they would be needed, of course, in Boston, it was looking more and more likely, not out of a position of necessity, but out of a position of luxury with Jeremy Swayman, that he would be on his way out. Now, that is a huge upgrade for Ottawa, as they were hoping for their goaltending woes to be filled by Joonas Korpisalo. It just was not the same. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that the return is not great. I think it's just a rumor for now. I wonder, could it be something bigger in the sense of a Jake Chychrun? Is it 100%? I don't think anything's 100% until you get the release from the team, but it's seeming as though multiple sources are saying the word out of Boston and the word out of Ottawa is that this trade is going down, and the final touches are just going on it right now. There have been many times when there have been rumors that I have not gone live for. I only go live when I am at least 99% certain that the trade is happening. So I have no doubt that the trade is happening. We just don't know what that return is going to be, and who knows when that return comes out. When you think about the Timo Meier trade and how it took like 3 hours for that to happen, you never know. But I would say this is just about done and dusted. You can count on Linus Ullmark going to the Ottawa Senators. So before we look at what the return might be and how it fits into the team's cap situations and all that jazz, let's first think about Linus Ullmark, a Jennings and Vezina Trophy winner. He had an incredible 2022-23 season when he had 40 wins, 938 save percentage, 1.89 goals against average. My goodness, 48.5 goals saved above expected. He had an incredible season. That also got him Hart votes, Lady Bing votes even as well. So Linus Ullmark is an incredible goaltender. This season, when given the split of 40 games with Jeremy Swayman, still a 22-win season, going 22-10-7, 915 save percentage, 2.57, not bad at all. But as we can see when we go and click on the Boston Bruins, they are going to be able to have some comfort in Jeremy Swayman being that guy, as he had very similar numbers, 916 save percentage, and historically a 920 in his career so far. And he's only 25. He's going to have his extension coming up as well. King Turby saying it could be a Bernard Docker kind of return. Interesting. We'll keeping an eye on that. But as we see, Jeremy Swayman will be an RFA. He's in line for a nice extension right now, freeing up $5 million, only for one more year as well. So Ottawa gets a great goalie upgrade, but only for 2024-25, only for one more season coming up here. So if you're gonna go Swayman and Boosie, that's fine by me. But Ottawa bringing in $5 million on Linus Ullmark, while also having $4 million on Joonas Korpisalo for the next 4 seasons, one more year of Anton Forsberg at 2.75, and is there not, who's down here again? It's Mad Sogard as well, expiring RFA. Does that mean Sogard would walk, and you'd have a tandem of Ullmark and Korpisalo, costing you $9 million? Up here, where are they? $4 million versus, and then a tandem of $9 million. Let's go back to the comments here. I'm seeing some of you in here. They re-signed. Yeah, hearing Bernard Docker says, King Turby, Browskiego, I think the details will be released post-game because they wouldn't want to overshadow Game 7. Makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised. So maybe we'll be live again at like 10 or 11 p.m. But just to break it down right now on what kind of a player Ottawa would be getting, Linus Ullmark is an incredible goaltender who has found his groove since coming to the Boston Bruins. It's not like he was a horrible goalie in Buffalo, but he was not quite the same goaltender. He had, as a starter, if you look at these 3 years, he wasn't quite a starter. But if you look actually just in Buffalo, you can isolate Buffalo, his parts of 6 seasons with the Sabres, 912 save percentage, 2.78, never bad at all. But Buffalo did not know what they were giving up when they sent him to Boston, or I forget, was it? It was a free agency when they let him go, I should say, and allowed Boston to come get him. Former 6th-round pick. He's only 30 years old. He's turning 31. He'll be an expiring UFA. My question for Ottawa will be, if you have right now 12.4 in projected cap space, this brings it down to 7. You have about $7.5 million right now. With that 7.5, you want to give a contract to Pinto, you want to give a contract to Brandstrom, okay, no problem. But you're giving up a lot of your cap space, a percentage of it, to have 3 goaltenders here. So $9 million to both Ullmark and Korpisalo. But then if you have Forsberg on board as your 3rd goalie, we're talking $11.75 million for a 3-headed beast. And if you look at, Landon, does he have a modified no movement clause? If we go over to Boston here, modified no trade clause, 24, 25, 15 team no trade list. So Jeremy's Linus Ullmark, would have had to waive this to make this deal work. So if we go back to Ottawa, if we go back to Twitter here, so as you can see, Bruce Garrioch, I think that's the best source we've gotten so far. As we have Steve Conroy, who covers the Boston Bruins for the Boston Herald since 2001. You have Bruce Garrioch, who covers the Senators in the Ottawa Sun. Is that, I know with the Sun, it's one of those Suns. Both of them are hearing that a deal is in place, and we'll see on the return for it. So yeah, he would have had to waive that no movement clause, so that no trade clause, to make this happen. Any updates here in the Twitter world? As we come back here to the main page, there's a lot of talk about the Stanley Cup final, of course, understandably so. Jay Fresh is going to have to put out that card. Yeah, not much going on here. So the return might be a little far away. This trade, the details are yet to come out. It could still be hours. I think that's what's holding it back. The trade is done, with the details will probably come out later in the evening. But the Ottawa Senators get a goaltender who has won the Vezina and has won the Jennings in a very good system as a part of a very good team. Can Linus Ullmark do it with Ottawa? Well, look at his most recent seasons with Buffalo. 917 save percentage, 915 save percentage. He has shown some flashes of some very good flashes in a smaller sample size. He has never in his career, this is interesting, played more than 49 games in a single season. Give him, let's say, 60 games in Ottawa, if you're really not confident in Joonas Korpisalo, giving him not a bad Senators team, but a team that's definitely not at Boston's level in 2022-23 when they were setting records. Give him a mediocre Ottawa squad who has the potential to be a wild card team. Give him 60 starts on that team. As an expiring UFA who's going to be wanting to earn his contract, coming into a contract year as a UFA, I think this could be a match made in heaven for one season. The question would then become, who is going to be Ottawa's long-term answer? Could they trade away Korpisalo and sign Ullmark to the big deal that he'd be wanting at whatever, 7-8 million? Or would they have to trade out? Would they have to let him walk, similar to how things worked out with DeBrincat, unfortunately, where they get him, trades out. Here we go. Yes, sir. We got it. Perfect. Let's go. Let's refresh. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Let's get the details on this one. Here we go. Ullmark traded to Ottawa. No extension as part of the trade. Enjoy Game 7. So Elliot Friedman confirming this now, right? So we can say no more doubt to it. Ullmark will be traded to Ottawa. No extension coming in. So he's coming in as a full UFA. And the return on it. Here we go. Oh, Korpisalo going back to Boston. Ullmark going. So the Ottawa Senators have acquired Linus Ullmark from the Boston Bruins in exchange for Boston's original 2024 first-round pick, so the 25th overall, Mark Kastelic and Joonas Korpisalo. As part of the transaction, the Senators will retain 25% of Korpisalo's remaining salary. Wow. This is a slam dunk win, I think, right off the bat here for the Ottawa Senators. So Linus Ullmark comes, if we look back at Ottawa, they had the Bruins' first-round pick that they had acquired back in July of 2023. Excuse me. That was in the, I won't try and take a guess on it if I'm going back to a year ago. Pick 25 in this draft came in the, okay. So hold on. So this pick was traded to Detroit in the Bertuzzi trade, which was then traded to Ottawa in the DeBrincat trade, and now goes back to Boston in the Ullmark trade. So Boston gets back their first-round pick in this draft. They now have a pick. They had no first, no second, no third. They now have back the 25th overall selection in this draft. So they get back their first on top of Mark Kastelic and Joonas Korpisalo to be the new backup at 25% retained. Let me just do the quick math on that. 4 times 0.75. What am I doing? It was 4. That's the easiest math. What's wrong with me? So at $3 million, that's going to be Joonas Korpisalo for 4 more years at $3 million, which is a much, not crazy, but it's more manageable for sure. And let's just go back and pull this up. Give me a moment. I'll leave it right here. Actually, I'll go just so I can pull up Mark Kastelic's numbers for you. Give me just a moment on that. There you go, Hobbsy. Hobbsy's excited down there in the chat. It's not a great return for the Senators, but you got to keep in mind that this is an expiring UFA. So as great as he's been, if I'm trying if I'm on the other side of the negotiations, I'm trying to say why I shouldn't give up a lot of value for Linus Ullmark, I'm going to say, hey, this guy's never started 50 games. He's never appeared in 50 games in a season. He's done his best when the team is doing historic numbers, and he's going to be an expiring UFA. So if I'm going to be talking against the value, that's what I would say. Now my computer doesn't want to load for Mark Kastelic. Oh my goodness. And Android need that my millions of calculations per second fell apart there. My apologies. But now it doesn't want to give me Mark Kastelic. Oh my goodness. Let me go the long way. I'm going to go back to HockeyDB, and I'll type in Kastelic this way. Now my computer wants to play hard to get. Kastelic. There you go. Thank you. Mark Kastelic, born in 99. So he's not really a prospect, eh? If I remember correctly, he's 25, former 5th-round pick of the Senators, played in 63 games. He's been a full-timer the last couple seasons, 25 points in 144 career games. Nothing really much to write home about, really just a contract, I would think, more than anything. So there's a 4th liner for Boston. So the Bruins get back their 25th overall selection. They get a 4th liner, and they get a backup goalie at $3 million for the next 4 years. Is that a bad return? No, I'm not going to say it is. Is it an underwhelming return? Yes. But again, when you take into consideration the situation that if I'm Steve Staios, I'm saying this guy's never appeared in 50 games. He is an expiring UFA. Who knows if he stays? I'm the one taking on the risk here. So I understand why it wouldn't be the craziest return. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, I know 11 minutes ago. Let's finish this up, eh? So we got Ullmark without giving up Chychrun, who's still flippable for more assets. Exactly. So if I'm Ottawa, I'm ecstatic about this, but I want to get an extension done ASAP. So Mark Kastelic, a guy who's playing, he's playing those single-digit minutes pretty much. He averaged, 743 on the season. Yeah, but at times he was playing into the 10s, 11s. 4th-line guy. In the end, he's a 4th-line guy. So one more time, the Ottawa Senators acquire their new starting goalie, at least for 1 more year, at $5 million, an expiring UFA, Linus Ullmark, now the new starting goaltender in Ottawa, in exchange for Boston's 1st-round pick, which is 25th overall, which they had received from Detroit in the Alex DeBrincat trade. So flipping what they got in the DeBrincat trade, or at least part of it, now into getting Linus Ullmark. They also give up 4th liner in Mark Kastelic, and they give up their starting goaltender, previous starting goaltender, Joonas Korpisalo, but they have to retain $1 million on his contract for the next 4 years. So that's not great either if I'm Ottawa. I know if I'm Ottawa, I have the cap space, but I'm also not happy to be retaining on a guy who we brought in to be our starter, played 1 year, fell apart, and now I got to retain for the next 4 years as a result of it. So 4 more years at $1 million is going to be taking up the cap space there. Now, if you look at Ottawa's cap space, they should have projected cap space 11.3. Really? I guess that's with things moving around a little. Makes sense. And now it makes sense. So 11.3 to play with. You got to extend Pinto. You got to extend Brandstrom. Or you can extend Mad Sogard. That's going to be a question as well. So ideally at first, kind of like 25 to give up. Otherwise, I see what you're saying there, Hobbsy, for Chychrun. Receiving a 1st to not need to pay Ullmark. I'll take that for Boston. That's it as well. It's not like I said, it's not a bad return. It's underwhelming when you think of who he is as a Vezina Trophy goaltender and how good he's been in that tandem with Jeremy Swayman. But you don't need to pay him, and you get back a 1st-round pick and a backup goalie without having to figure out what you're going to do on that front as well. So I don't mind this if I'm Boston. It is a little underwhelming for a Vezina Trophy goaltender, a guy who's been doing so much for such a good team for so long. But if I'm Boston, I also need to have as much money as possible into the future, because I have only Pastrnak, Coyle, and Zacha signed into 2026. I'm going to have a ton of expiring UFAs and RFAs already that are ones I have right now. The Bruins need money. They got to have money here to be able to. The defense is locked up, which is great. So now Korpisalo will be backing up Swayman. You got to give him his big contract. They have $21.5 million to play with. So that frees up exactly what they needed right now, and even more so into the future. So if I'm Boston, I'm happy with the situation my organization has put itself into. I'm sad that it's come down to this, but I also know I wouldn't want to lose him for nothing. And I'm glad to get, hey, a backup goalie, a fourth liner, and at the end of the day, a first round pick. Even if that first round pick becomes just an average guy, as we always know, what the later you go in the draft, those percentages can get more and more wonky. Still, to have a first round pick, I have no picks in the first, second, or third round. The Bruins are not the juggernaut team that they're going to be forever. They need to not rebuild, but they need to have some players in their system. And the way to do that is to recoup some picks without selling on players they don't want to sell on. The only way to do it would be to trade their excess away. And that is what they have done. To trade away their excess is a way to recoup value. So in the end, as Connor says, yes, great deal for Boston in that sense. Is it underwhelming that you only get a late first and a backup goalie for your Vezina goaltender? Yes, but take the context into account, and it's a fair enough deal. As Hobbsy says, I'm not happy to be retaining, but the retention for 4 is better than the buyout for 8. Well said again. So there's positives and negatives on both sides of this trade. Of course, no more iconic hugs between Swayman and Ullmark, as Golden Gamer says. Yeah, very true. DJ Harris saying, who's getting traded from the back end? I'm sure they'll get another first back, depending on if that's what they want. Shabbat or Chikrin. I would think Chikrin's also on the way out in Ottawa. I'm sure they want bodies back. I would think they want bodies back. To say that they're taking Linus Ullmark, one of the better, I'd say one of the top 10 starting goaltenders in the NHL, who's going to be an expiring UFA, I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to stay in Ottawa if he's going to be that starter, to finally get a chance to be a starter, a guy who's never appeared in more than 49 games in a season. I'm sure he's excited to get that chance to be a starter. But now, and especially on a young enough team, but now he's going to have to play his heart out on a not as great Ottawa team. If something great happens, like he drags them to the playoffs in the wildcard spot, and he can then ask for that 7-8 million, then Ottawa's in a little bit of trouble in one way. But on the other hand, hey, we got that starting goaltender, and I'd rather have a starting goaltender that I pay and get performances from than I'm dealing with Mads Søgaard and Anton Forsberg for the next 3 years. So I think there's positives and negatives on both sides of this trade. But in the end, as we just said, I think there is much rationale on both sides for why this trade works on both ends, as the Senators acquire Linus Ullmark, no extension, expiring UFA, making $5 million in exchange for Boston's original 2024 first-round pick, which they had received from Detroit in an Alex DeBrincat trade. So Ottawa gives up a first-round pick, a 25th overall, fourth liner Mark Kastelic, their starting goaltender Joonas Korpisalo, who they're retaining $1 million on for the next 4 years, and in exchange, they get to roll the dice on one of the better goalies in the NHL to be their starter for 1 year at $5 million. Yeah, no more hugs. It's unfortunate. Right now, I see that win for both sides, makes sense for both sides. There are also downside elements to both sides, but who truly wins this trade, we'll see a year from now. If Korpisalo can be an amazing backup to Swayman, and at first can be turned into a good player for the Bruins, and Ullmark walks after 1 year, well, then the Senators get fleeced, just as a matter of fact. But if that first becomes nothing and Korpisalo continues to struggle and Ullmark ends up staying on a long-term extension, he's an elite starter in Ottawa, well, then that's an incredible pull for that value. The Senators pounced on the value at the right time when the Bruins were at their most vulnerable, in the sense that we got to free up some money, and we also don't want to lose him for nothing. That's it. It's too bad. Steve Summer is just beginning. Speaking of just beginning, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe if you haven't already for breaking news and analysis for all these trades, free agency, the NHL draft, our ongoing live stream series, our franchise mode series. Take a second to check out the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to have you join the community of almost 8,000 here on the channel. Join us in the Discord server, link in the description, where this is where the news broke. If it wasn't for the Discord server, I wouldn't have gone live. That is where it's happening. We're over 650 members in there, talking hockey, talking franchise mode, and we'd love to have you join the community. It would be that much stronger with you as a part of it. So I think I'll end it off there as we have Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. The Bruins now with $21.5 million to play with. What are they going to do? What kind of extension will Jeremy Swayman get? And the Senators with $11.3 million to play with. They have their first-round pick at 7th overall. They have a few contracts to sign, potentially moving out Jake Chychrun as well, an expiring UFA. There's a lot to think about for both these teams organizationally, but there's the first domino to fall for both of them. We'll see what happens there. Let's see. Yeah, good point here from J-Mac. I do think we should trade Korpisalo and then let Bussi come into a backup role. I thought that that's what they were going to do. Swayman backed up by Bussi. Only playing 25 or so games, though, to let him develop. I don't know if I see Korpisalo being the backup in Boston for 4 more years, with Bussi being a guy who wants to make that lineup in the near-ish future, right? So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me for this breaking news live stream. Perfect timing as we're going to segue right into the Stanley Cup Final. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and of course, leave a comment, leaving your thoughts on this one. Who do you think wins this trade and why? Subscribe if you haven't already for all of our breaking news and analysis, our live stream series, and we'll be live tomorrow, actually, with the MLB The Show Montreal Expos series. And on Wednesday, we'll have a breakdown of the postseason that was. We'll have a playoff recap live stream on Wednesday after the Stanley Cup gets awarded tonight. Who do you think takes it? I don't know. I don't really have a dog in the fight. I'm excited for both these teams. I just want to see a great hockey game, and I can't wait for it. Thank you for joining me this evening for this breaking news live stream. Big news for both these teams. How will it affect them long term? We will see. Have yourself a lovely evening, everyone, and we'll talk soon. Enjoy the hockey tonight.